video. So we now have the ability to fully activate our PS5 accounts with fake activation. And this comes to us from earthonion, and we do have a test payload that was put out there by ConsoleHax. So I'll leave that linked in the video description. This is a test payload at the moment, so I don't really recommend actually running this. Wait for the full release is what I would recommend here, because there are still some bugs with this particular version. But the good news is that we will be able to fully activate our PS5 accounts. Now, the reason why this is significant, this is being done mainly to get around those pop-up messages for the PlayStation View exploits that is up and coming. So having proper activation on the PS4 will bypass those issues. But that's also now been applied here to the PS5 to fix similar issues on the PS5. So when you run the YouTube jailbreak, you will no longer get that PSN sign-in pop-up that appears with the current fake activation, which can make running the exploit a little bit more smoother with the YouTube jailbreak. So that's one of the benefits. But the other benefit here is that with the current fake activation that we have for the PS5 right now, it does not fully unlock certain features on the console that should be unlocked when your account is activated. So for instance, when we go into the settings, I currently have this account fake activated using the previous method, and that should really enable the remote play options in the system settings, but you can see enable remote play is still unavailable despite this account being activated. And then not only that, but the ability to transfer your save files, your PS4 saves, to a USB drive and transfer them back from the USB to the console storage in the save data and game app settings. If we go to save data on PS4 console storage, if I try and select the option to copy to USB drive, you can see it just says you're not signed in, connect to PlayStation Network. So it does not let me access that feature. So these are the problems you run into with the current activation. So let's go ahead and try this new payload to see if it solves these issues. So what I'm going to do, first of all, we need to make sure we're connected to our network. So if we go to our settings, we go over to our system software, console information. You want to make sure you have a valid IPv4 address so that the console is connected to the network. And we can note down our IP address there, 192.168.137.247. So with that noted down, I can switch on over to my computer and send the payload. So to do this, I'm just going to use netcat GUI, but you can use any payload injector that you like to use. And we're just going to change the IP address to the IP address of the PS5. Port number is 9021. And then we can take earthonion's payload, load it in here, and then inject that payload, and that will send it over to the PS5. So we can see it running there. It says NP fake sign-in is starting. And then we just wait a few seconds, and it will then tell us to reboot the console once it's done. So reboot to apply the changes, and we can go ahead and reboot. Now, I must stress it's definitely not recommended to do this with the test payloads that are being released right now, because there are constant changes that are being made to this payload. There is also a bug I've noticed where it can actually end up creating two accounts with the same name, and that can cause potential problems. So there are still some bugs to be worked out with this particular payload. And we'll probably get a version that will allow us to select our own account IDs as well, so that we can activate with a specific account ID. So it's probably better to wait for that to come out before you actually try this yourself, because if offline activating goes wrong, it can have some severe consequences, like having your save files be tied to the wrong account ID, and then none of them will load and they all show up as corrupted. So, you know, you can run into these issues. So I would highly recommend waiting, of course, for the full release. But anyway, if we hop on to our account now that it has been activated with this new payload, if we go back into our settings and scroll down to system, go back to our remote play, we can see enable remote play is now available. So I can toggle remote play on and off, and the link device option is working. So I can link a device via remote play. So that's a feature that normally was not working with the previous activation, but with this activation, it is now properly enabled. And of course, the ability to copy our saves to a USB drive, which is a pretty big deal here. It's something we've not really been able to do. You had to just use FTP or PS5 Explorer to manually locate the save files to copy them out, which was not ideal. But now you can use the actual menu that's built into the console itself by going into save data and game app settings, save data on PS4, console storage, and then you can see that if I select copy to USB drive, it's no longer telling me to sign into PSN. So I can select a save file that I have for a game and copy it over to my USB drive. And that save file is now on the USB. And I should also be able to go vice versa, go onto the USB section here, select the save on the USB, and then copy it back over to the console storage. So these are options that you will be familiar with if you have a retail console with a PSN account tied to it. But these features have been inaccessible to most people on jailbroken consoles unless you just happen to be lucky enough to have a jailbroken console that was a retail console at some point in the past, where you actually had linked a PSN account and still had that account on the console on the older firmware. Then you will have already had access to these features. But of course, for most people, these features have been inaccessible until now. And the other big benefit this has, of course, is when you go to run the YouTube jailbreak, it will no longer bring up the PSN sign-in message that normally pops up. If you recall, whenever you run the YouTube jailbreak, it normally comes up saying something about having to sign into PlayStation Network, and you just click OK, and then it will continue and run the exploit. But now that we have the account properly activated, that message no longer appears, and you can just go ahead and load up the YouTube jailbreak with one click instead, which is definitely nicer. So again, I would stress not to run this at the moment until there is a full release, because again, I have noticed a few people having issues, some people losing their save files, other people having issues with duplicate accounts being created. So these are bugs that will be worked out, and of course we need a version that will allow us to actually enter the exact account ID that we want to activate, so that we can make sure that save files exported from our PS5 will be compatible with other consoles that are running the same account with the same account ID. So what we'll likely see is the current offline activator get updated to include these improvements, so that we can just use that to activate our accounts, and that way we can enter the exact account ID of the account that we want to activate. So that's one of the major issues that we've had with the PS5 so far, is not having access to these basic features that we've had on the PS4 with offline activation for years. But despite having offline activation on the PS5 for some time now, those features have still been inaccessible to us until now. So anyway, just wanted to make a quick video on that to fill you guys in on this latest development. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one or found the information useful. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll hopefully